This is Off the Cuff, a special series from the Ojai Stories podcast. I'm Dana Berchman, and in these episodes, I'll be giving you my candid thoughts about what I've learned trying to engage and reach people where they are. No guests, just straight talk. I talk a lot about jumping on trends, and that government shouldn't be an exception to the way the world works. If the world is spending their time on TikTok, why wouldn't government be? I know this is a controversial statement, since TikTok specifically has some platform questions around privacy and security, but the point remains the same. Just like it did when Facebook launched, or Snapchat, or Periscope, which is now an obsolete streaming service of video that we used early on in government. Not many cities were embracing these tools, and still to this day, not many do. And I know that for government staff who already feel overwhelmed and understaffed, and not just in government, but in other industries where you may feel like you only have one person, that one man, one woman band, to run all of these platforms and do all of the other aspects of the job, whether it's marketing, communications, PR, social media. But it is really critical to think about, are you where your residents are? Are you where your customers and your citizens are? This is where they're living their lives. And one of the core foundational pieces of launching this business is meeting people where they are, going to them to give them information, not expecting them to come to you. We hold public meetings and expect people to show up at council meetings when their kids have after-school activities at night, get in their car and come and participate, and sometimes people do. But those tend to be the most involved, the most informed, or the people that have a grievance or a problem, that they have a reason that they're motivated to want to go. But that everyday average resident who's just busy living their lives is probably spending the majority of their free time on social media, online, checking their email, shopping online, using Amazon, paying their bills that way, and getting their information that way. So you need to be there where they are to deliver them that information and also to get the feedback. This is how you survey. This is not a one-way communication always, right? It's a relationship. It still goes back to those core principles of building trust and transparency, especially in government when we know that the levels of trust for government are so low. And so how do you do that? That can be a very overwhelming thought. There's a million social media platforms. Do you have to be on all of them? No. But the first step, of course, in marketing is understanding who your customer is, where your resident is, where are they spending their time, and going there. So it might be starting small just on one platform, right? Or thinking about maybe right now you're on too many different disparate platforms, streamlining that to make sure your audience is appropriate and clear and that you're reaching the most people as possible with your message. And again, this is going to shift. So if this is in your 5-year plan, 5 years ago, we did not know that we'd be spending so much time on platforms like Snapchat and TikTok, especially if we talk all the time in this country about engaging young people, whether it's in voting or civic participation, government. The reason is because we're not on their platforms, right? We're not meeting them where they are. And this is really critical to success and engagement. And all of this translates to more engagement, to civic participation, to showing up at the ballot box and having a vested interest in their buy-in, right? So understanding where your residents are, where your customers are, and then going and meeting there is critical, but also grabbing their attention. It's not enough to just push out information, but doing something that's going to catch their eye. So I give this example a lot, but we were really fortunate. Justin Timberlake had put out a call for his Can't Stop the Feeling song to challenge groups to make videos with his new single. And at the time, there were groups I saw doing this. There were some large companies, a few basketball teams, some other organizations, but I did not see a single city who was taking up him on this challenge. And it was everywhere. And so we did just that. We got the mayor involved. We got the community involved. We made a call for people to come and visit and dance under our water tower in our downtown. And we put together very quickly, because you can't take a lot of time when these things are trending. They're trending 1 minute and then they're gone the next. And so I used to always tell my team, hey, it's too late, or, oh, that ship has sailed. That was last week's news. That was yesterday's. So, being sure that you can turn around the content you need to while it's still relevant is critical, right? And that happens so quickly nowadays. Like I said, something one day that's really popular, the next day is not. So if you're going to invest the time you got to understand, okay, we can run and gun this. We can make this quickly. This isn't a highly produced piece. This is a quick call to action, a quick turnaround. And so we did just that and created a video that Justin Timberlake himself shared on Facebook and on Twitter with a praying hands emoji, Gilbert, Arizona. And so this was a huge moment for us, for people outside of Gilbert and Arizona and other places, and people outside of government to see, what is this place? Oh, this looks cool. I might want to live there. I want to raise my family there. I might want to do business there. And so we were able to amplify our message using this power of a super celebrity to share on their platforms. And we used to talk all about this, the tags and the hashtags, and being sure, how do you get that visibility, right? And you're not always going to get it. And sometimes you can put a lot of effort into something and it doesn't go anywhere and it doesn't do well, but you don't know if you don't try. And so giving it a shot like that is really critical. We did many projects like these, including things like putting our mayor in carpool karaoke, which had us many Emmy nominations and then an Emmy win for our digital state of the town. We did thank you notes like Jimmy Fallon does from our mayor at the end of the year. We had our mayor read mean tweets when everyone was doing that. So thinking about how creatively you can take what you have and what's trending in the world and make it relevant, right? To engage that audience. I know having two preteen and teenage daughters, this is really critical, and they keep me up to speed on what that is. And if you don't have access to teens, you got to figure out how to go and find where they are, where they're spending their time, right? And it's that really under 35 audience. And like I mentioned before in previous podcasts, look at your community. If the average age is 32, 34, you can bet that the best way to reach them is going to be through social media and online engagement. And so figure out, where is that core group of people that you're looking to bring into the fold, and go and get them, meet them where they are. But you got to not only go to those platforms, but then you have to creatively, thoughtfully, carefully, strategically grab their attention. And then it's a continued relationship. It's not a one-time thing. Just because I follow an account, I will be likely to unfollow it if you don't keep me interested and engaged. And so it's that continuous thinking about, how do we bring new people to our platforms? How do we keep the people who are already here engaged? And be sure that we're not overwhelming them also with information and content that they're not interested in. And so this goes to, if you're on too many platforms and you're putting the same thing everywhere, probably not going to work if you're not customizing it specifically for where you need it. I know during the pandemic, this was something of just a need to know. I just need to get this piece of information on every channel I have and reach as many people as possible. But the way you're creating content, depending on the platform, is really critical nowadays, especially when it comes to video. We know vertical video is king, and it was at some point very short and you couldn't keep people's attention. Now you can do longer video and hope that you'll keep people's attention. But again, it's not any video. The content has to be relevant. It has to be timely. It has to be engaging. And so I always say too, not every mayor is going to be fit for carpool karaoke. You have to also understand what you're working with, who you have, how is that going to translate to video? How does that translate onto the various platforms? And I think that that's really critical too. I'll get a lot of comments from other cities and people that are like, oh, I really wanted to try putting my mayor on social media, but they weren't open to it. It's like, okay, well then who else could you put out there, right? Look around your organization, be creative, look into the community for those influencers and people that can amplify voices or that might want to help you with your brand and your message and getting that out into the world. So again, all of these things are changing by the hour. And so if we're stuck in government ways and we're thinking about doing the same thing we were doing yesterday, it's probably not going to be relevant tomorrow. So you have to have nimble, quick, creative, thoughtful people and ideas flowing in and out. And then you will grow that engagement. And it starts with understanding who your customer, your resident, and your citizen are, and then figuring out what's the best way to catch their attention. And then even better, build a relationship of trust over time. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Ojai Stories podcast. Please leave us a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice, and stay tuned for more episodes coming soon. And visit our website at ohaicommunications.com.